Hello, world. This is www.i955fm.com, Trinidad.
This Sunday on episode 42 of Eye on Dependency, where every life is a biography.
I'm your brother, you're my sister. Yes, we are each other's keepers.
You wake up one morning and realize you are totally blind. How would you deal with it?
I appreciated my sight so much. When I lost my sight, I cried a lot. It hurt me very much. I am Beverly and Fitzallen, and this is my story.
Can you survive in a world of darkness?
I struggle with identity, coping skills, and I battle mental illness. My name is Cecille, Alves, and this is my story.
Would you be able to handle the challenges?
Sometimes you're walking, you're hitting lampposts, and you're saying sorry to the lamppost and what have you when you realize it's a lamppost.
My name is Jennifer Daulat-Araujo, and this is my story.
This Sunday from 6:15 p.m. on I-95.5 FM and live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel. In observance of World Sight Day, Garth and Natasha speak with three women about how their lives are impacted by visual impairment and blindness. Eye on Dependency. We don't just share stories. We change lives. We change lives.
This is Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha. Sundays at 6:15 p.m. on the most influential name in radio, I-95.5 FM.
Along the highways, across the byways, and everywhere that you go, people smiling outwardly, but inwardly popping sorrow. Every day they cry for help, but this is all in vain. For no one cares to lend a hand to help them ease their pain. I'm your brother, you're my sister. Yes, we are each other's keeper. Get rid of all the hatred and give love to one another. Turn away from all that's evil. Seek Christ in every soul and common people. Build a better world. See that lady, she is hungry. Give her something to eat. Watch that fellow, he looks sleepy. Don't let him lie in the street. Do everything that you have to do, but don't leave him out in the dew. When you lend that man a helping hand, for tomorrow it might be. He's your brother, you're his sister. Yes, you are each other's keeper. Get rid of all the hatred and give love to one another. Turn away from all that's evil. Seek Christ in every soul and common system build a better world. Let's get rid of all corruption, vice and drug addiction. Then we could turn our eyes on the road to salvation. Let us try our very best to regain our spiritual worth. Then and only then we'll find a paradise on earth. I'm your brother, you're my sister. Yes, we are each other's keeper. Get rid of all the hatred and give love to one another. Turn away from all that's evil. Seek Christ in every soul and common people build a better world. He looked down and he saw mankind really losing his way. So he said he could not stay and see man going astray. He willingly sent his only son to set humanity free and to demonstrate his love for us. He died at Calvary. I'm your brother, you're my sister. Yes, we are each other's keeper. Get rid of all the hatred and give love to one another. Turn away from all that's evil. Seek Christ in every soul and common people build a
Recorded in 1976 by Anthony Francis, the late almanac, blind calypsonian. As we observe World Sight Day, say good evening to you, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Independency, right here on I-95.5 FM, live on the Independency Facebook page and YouTube channel. Good evening, Natasha.
Good evening, Garth. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. We are very happy to be here and to share that calypso with you. I'm sure you may have heard it, somewhere in the distance, but you didn't really, maybe not paid attention to it, but it is very apt. The lyrics are very apt for what we are going to discuss today. And of course, based on the person who sang it, who's a blind calypsonian, Lord Almanac, gives it additional relevance.
Yeah, I could see it now, like yesterday, he used to be led on stage with his cane. He never let go of that cane and come on stage and sing. And as we said, I say pleasant evening to Janelle and husband, Janelle Finley and husband, Lingo, Tom,
yes,
Kenneth and Selvon. Good evening, and the rest of the blind and visually impaired community. We say a pleasant evening to all of you. And as usual, we pay that tribute to this folk. This evening, you're going to hear from 3 women and 1 man who, of course, is along with them an advocate. And you'll hear from Cecille Alves, who, among her stories, she was robbed at home. And imagine what that feels like. Beverly Fitzallen, her story, among other things, she was put out of a maxi. Yeah. Heartless maxi driver put her out with citizens looking on and didn't say a word in her defense. And of course, Jennifer Daulat-Araujo, who is a Hummingbird Silver recipient in the sphere of social work. She too has her story to tell, and we'll speak with Mr. Patrick Romano afterwards. But before we do all of that, I just want to ask you all, picture yourself waking up one morning and you're blind. You went to bed the night before, after looking at television, take up the lights, jump in bed to prepare to get up for the next morning. And when you open your eyes, you see nothing. It's a scary thought, eh? Or if you just practice, and I always tell people that practice starting by your living room door or by your front door, and try to close your eyes and try to walk from your front door to your kitchen without running into anything. Scary, right? I tried it. It's really scary.
It is. It is. And I just took off my glasses because they were fogging up because of the mask, right? And it's a very weird sensation. I can see, but everything is blurry, and it's a disorienting feeling at first. Yeah. And that is just a snippet of what blind and visually impaired people go through every day. I think we would like to raise awareness, not just of the theme for World Sight Day, which is Love Your Eyes, for encouraging people to cherish their sight, but also to raise awareness of how we treat with persons who are blind and visually impaired, how we don't see them often. Ironically, the sighted don't see blind people, and we don't give them, the due respect that they deserve as citizens, as human beings. And hopefully by the end of today's show, you will be a little bit more aware and cognizant of the role that we, the sighted, can play in assisting them to live their fullest potential.
Yeah, and you will be hooking up with them via video. They could do that too. At least they still try to keep up with technology. And so Shortman, this is going to bring them up one by one, and we'll see them actually on Facebook or on YouTube. So they decided they're going to do that. They're not going to just speak to us on the phone, because they try the best to, as I said, to keep step with us. But are we keeping step with them? Have we been doing enough to recognize that they live among us, and we should recognize that and pay attention, not only recognize. Like, for instance, getting put out of a maxi in the middle of nowhere when you're blind. You know how scary that can be. And you know what's happening in this? There are people who are probably not even afraid to rob a blind person, as has happened with Cecille. And to know that there are people who sat in that maxi and allowed that driver to do that, you're just as bad as the maxi driver.
And not just the fact that she was blind, the fact that she's a woman. We all know what is taking place with women across Trinidad and Tobago. How could you not try to help? Because I mean, it's weird that we that nobody, or even all of the people in the maxi, if they found that the driver was being ridiculous and wanted to do something, they could have said, okay, you're putting her out, well, everybody getting out.
Yeah. And not only that, reporting to the Maxi Taxi Association.
Yes.
And having banned for at least a month or two, because in any other serious country that takes these things seriously, something would have happened to him.
Of course.
Legally. Bus drivers in countries where they take this seriously cannot pass a disabled or a blind person straight on the road. They cannot do it. They're going to lose their job. Now in Trinidad here, it's only a blind person, or you could lose a job for that. What about the man family? That's how we will think here. And it really don't matter, right? You see how it is as a sighted person, even to walk down Frederick Street. And I wonder, I admire them whoever want to try to do that on the, as a blind person. You heard Jennifer say sometimes they hit a lamppost and she says sorry. And only to realize it's a lamppost that she hit, with the stick, with the cane. And why aren't we a little more empathetic and supportive? They have one or two among us who will, but it is not a national thing. And again, if it was a national thing, no taxi or maxi driver could lose the care of the head to tell a blind person, come out my maxi, come out. Look, take back your money. Come out. There are people who will rob a blind person. Blind person come to buy something and give them wrong change. So, apart from observing the day, because it's just a day, we have to live with them for a lifetime. They have to live with us for a lifetime.
Yep.
And again, it could happen to you in the blink of an eye, pardon the pun, that you could get blind.
Yes.
And you will want the same empathy.
Yes.
I am telling you, for me, I pray and ask God, please take a toe, take a finger. You see my sight? I don't feel I will go anywhere after that. Natasha laughed when I tell her, I am not kidding. I feel,
But blindness doesn't mean the end of your life. You still have to
I know that, Natasha.
do the things that you accustomed doing.
But you just talk about glasses, something.
Yeah.
It is so refreshing to put on. I used to wear glasses, and putting on the glasses now is such a breath of fresh air. It's like because now I could see what's Jesus. Let's start with this young man. This was sent to us. This made the rounds, and this was sent to most media houses, I think. But it's a young man who passed his. Let him introduce himself.
Yes.
It's
a young man by the name of Russell Diaz, and he has written a poem in commemoration of World Sight Day. And the theme is Love Your Eyes, so his poem is based on that.
So let's go to the young man, and when we take a break and return with Cecille Alves. And remember the Ann Health this evening on TV6, back to 8:30. We feature Mr. Paul McCutcheon from the Life Ministries. All right, so that's at 8:30 on TV6 this evening. But let's go to the young man now, Mr. Russell Diaz.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Russell Diaz. I am 11 years old. I attend a school for blind children. I am a client of the Trinidad and Tobago Blind Welfare Association. October is the Blindness Awareness Month. Thursday the 14th of October is World Sight Day. The theme for World Sight Day is Love Your Eyes. I prepared a poem to raise awareness. Love your eyes. Well guys, it's that time again. World Sight Day is upon us once more. Let us come together, my friends, and bring awareness to the flow. They say prevention is better than cure. Well, vitamin A, C, and E is the key. Carrot, spinach, and pumpkin, yum. Orange, tomatoes, and almonds, yeah. Let's eat healthy, guys, and learn to love our eyes. Sunglasses and limited screen times boost the protection of your eyes. Dryness, headaches, and eye strain can be avoided if we protect our eyes. Preserve and prioritize your eyes by having regular eye exam. Share this message with friends and family and make it a mission to love your eyes. The end. Thank you for listening.
Cool.
Yeah. No, that's a brilliant message. I love that. Make sure and he's
reading it in Braille.
In Braille.
That's the next thing, you know.
And
I have to learn to read with my fingers now. You know.
Yeah.
God have mercy, Lord. Father,
no, but well done, Russell Diaz. Well done, young man.
Well
Excellent
done, son.
poem.
Yes.
And you don't have to say the end at the end, but it was cute.
And congratulations to Omar Harinanan. CSEC results 2021. He's 2 is blind, and he got English A 2, Spanish 2, Mathematics 1, Human and Social Biology 1, Accounts 1, and Social Studies 1. Congratulations.
Distinction.
Information and Technology, Principles of Business. You got distinctions in Information, Technology, and Principles of Business. Well done, Omar Harinanan. Congratulations. All right, folks, so we take a break. And when we return, we have our first guest up, Ms. Cecille Alves. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha. Reality radio at its best.
My first encounter with drug treatments is when I went to New Life Ministries up on the Mount, and I realized it was the ideal place for me because it dealt with not only my drug using, but it also dealt with my low self-esteem, my ability to communicate effectively with people. It dealt with my physical ability to improve myself because as a result of using drugs, my physical body was impaired.
This week on Iron Health, we focus on drug treatment and rehabilitation at New Life Ministries. Tune in this Sunday from 8:30 p.m. on TV6 and from 8:45 p.m. on the Ion Dependency YouTube channel.
Morning. Listen now, I've noticed something about them new people in the bureau day. Where's that? Girl, the man is passing up and down in front of here with a set of woman.
I really noticed some women living there, you know. And they can't even say as much as good morning.
Well, listen now, I wonder if it's human trafficking. You think it's that?
So, how can you spot and identify perpetrators and victims of trafficking? Many victims are found living and working together in the same place and sleep in shared and inappropriate spaces. Victims work excessively long hours. They often sleep in the daytime and work long nights. They are often escorted everywhere they go and may appear to be malnourished. They may show signs of physical abuse, drug and alcohol use, and may also appear withdrawn, fearful, or intimidated. Victims who are migrants are often not in possession of their identity or immigration documents and have irregular immigration status. Perpetrators can be male or female and may appear to be managing or controlling the victims. And they may even at times appear to be the victim's best friend, boyfriend, or employer.
We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Hi, my name is Tania Kane, trauma survivor and trauma-informed care expert from the state of Maryland, United States. And you're listening to Eye on Dependency, where every life is a biography on I-95.5 FM, Trinidad and Tobago.
Along the highways, across the byways, and everywhere that you go. People smiling outwardly, but inwardly popping sorrow. Every day they cry for help, but this is all in vain. For no one cares to lend a hand to help them ease their pain. I'm your brother, you're my sister. Yes, we are each other's keeper. Get rid of all the hatred.
Thank you for staying with us.
To one another.
Thank you for joining us on I-95.5 FM, on Facebook Live, and on YouTube.
Yes, and we have Cecille up now first on the video. And you can catch her on Facebook or YouTube if you wish. And or those of you listening us on I-95.5, please sit and listen carefully. Cecille, welcome to Independency. Do we have a mic on, short man, and everything is... Let's try again. Cecille, she looks like she's sticking already. I'm looking at the image.
Yeah. Are you hearing us, Cecille? Well, while we try to sort that out, let me read some comments off of Facebook until she begins to hear us. Lynette says, I can relate to that. She was referencing my comment. I had my eyes dilated on Wednesday and had a difficult day just from the doctor's office to home. Victoria says, good evening. I've been around blind people all of my life. My uncle was born blind from birth, and I can say that people treat you terrible and act as if it's contagious.
Yeah, and that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Ridiculous.
From a people living in a country like blindness is contagious. Blindness is not contagious.
No, it's not.
Just like some people feel substance abuse is contagious. It's really sad. Cecille, can you hear us now?
Yes, hello?
Okay, great.
Oh, yes. Thank you. And let's keep our fingers crossed that this connection stays connected.
Yes, we're seeing you and hearing you clearly now.
Right. So, Cecille, let's get into it right away. Tell us, what have your experience been as a blind person living in Trinidad and Tobago?
I have very good experiences and a bit of a challenging time. But through it all, I thank God for keeping me through day by day. So I'm taking it one day at a time.
Right. Now, how long have you been living with blindness?
All right. I was diagnosed with congenital glaucoma from birth, and my diagnosis was confirmed when I was 3 months old.
And what does that mean? What does congenital glaucoma mean for you?
That's when the octave nerve in the eyes is ruptured, which sends message from the brain to where sight, and the octave nerve is ruptured.
Right. So how did your family...
Before you go there, how does that happen though? A fall?
It's it's genetic.
Okay.
Okay.
Glaucoma is genetic, and there are different types of glaucoma. I know there's traceable glaucoma, but I have congenital glaucoma because I was born with. It was required at birth. Yeah.
Right. So you are completely blind, or do you have some vision?
I have very little vision. I'm low vision.
Okay. So how did your family, tell us about your family and when they discovered that you had this condition, how did they respond to it, and what was it like growing up a blind child?
Okay. At first, I could imagine how shocked they were, but they managed to deal with it one day at a time. My mom is a teacher. She did the best that she can, and as parents, when you have a child with a disability, at first you don't know where to go.
Yes.
And it's persons along the way. I went to preschool, a normal preschool Montessori school children house. And my teacher, Auntie Dale, hi, she's listening. And I got a good foundation from there, and they worked with me the best way that they could. And when someone told my mom about the school for the blind children at Santa Cruz, so I attended school for the blind children at Santa Cruz from the age of 6 till about 11. I integrated into the normal primary school system. I wrote common entrance, and I attended St. George's College.
Okay. And what was that experience like, being in a classroom with sighted children?
The class that I was in was children with different disabilities, and children who was quote unquote sighted. And because the private school I attended was a school with both able-bodied and children with disabilities.
Okay.
And from young we were taught tolerant. But before I attended St. Femba Girls RC School in Aruca, and it was okay. My primary school teacher, Ms. Reverend Alice, she was a wonderful teacher. I had a wonderful teacher at St. Femba Girls. And when I attended Caris Works Christian Academy to write common entrance, yeah.
Right. But do you think that there should be more integration of disabled children and able-bodied children in the classroom? Is that something that can be done?
Integration is right. Well, integration has been taking place for years, since in the 1990s.
Right.
Right. And so integration has been along for. But what I could expand and say what is needed is that guidance counselors. Well, children need to be need of some form of counseling support, social work support, because there are times, even being integrated, especially in the secondary school system, you may face that challenges like bullying, self-esteem issues, and I experienced that for a short period of time. However, thanks to persons coming in from PAVI and blind welfare to do sensitization on how do you deal with a person who are blind and visually impaired, and how do you relate with them, how do you guide them, and from there things started to a positive change took place.
Right.
And St. George's College have a history of having children with disabilities who are wheelchair bound. Like, for example, one, he passed away now, Wayne Naranjit, and many others after him. We have children with wheelchairs. So St. George's has a proud history of having children with disabilities.
That's
Now,
excellent.
Cecile, let's talk about you a bit now, and you're dealing with your issue itself. How did you
Yes.
feel about yourself in your condition?
Okay, my condition. I
Whole
struggle
situation.
as a teenager with self-esteem. Like, am I good enough? When people get together and they go out and socialize, that was between Form 1 to 3 was the tough years, right? Looking back. And when friends are going out, you have cousins your age going out to parties and you're not invited, and you don't feel a part. You feel like something is wrong with you. And then on top of that, Gat and Natasha, I before CXC, I was diagnosed with I collapsed in school one day and I was diagnosed with epileptic seizures, right? And I wrote CXC in Mount Hope Hospital, and the matrons and we were very accommodative. I wrote my last two exams in CXC exam, and I did excellent during that time. And I went on to do A levels at St. George's College, and I struggle with that. So it's you had to deal with being visually impaired, having a next medical crisis. It was a lot to deal with.
I
So
can imagine, especially, and that ties back to what you said about the need for counselors in school, because being a
yes,
teenager
that's
is
correct.
difficult on its own, but having a disability along with that brings additional challenges. So
If you're
yeah.
just joining us, you're listening to Independency, and we are speaking with Miss Cecile Alves, who is visually impaired, and she's telling us about living in that world, in her world in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, what about self-harm, Cecile? Did you ever thought about it, or you just felt like giving up?
Um, there was a point in time, I'll share this with you, but because there are persons struggling with mental illness, I
Yes.
will share this with you. Um, it all started in sixth form. I was on some medication, Tegretol, and when I the Tegretol have you depress, the epileptic drugs, and I joined this psychiatric clinic for counseling and whatnot. I was diagnosed with depression. One of the side effects is depression, and I was on this drug called fluoxetine 2.0, and it had me feeling good for a while when I was in lower six, and with all the stress and anxiety and whatnot. And then one day I started to develop tendencies, like suicidal tendencies. I tried to commit suicide 2 to 3 times, right? And then there was at one point in time my attempt, I was at literally at death's door. And God bring me back in and I was put on to professional counselors. And what we discovered about the drug is that one of the side effects are suicide
Suicidal
among
thoughts.
adults 21, yeah, 21 and up,
Wow.
young adults.
Hmm.
So I came off of the drug and I went for therapy, and when I was accepted into university during after that time in my life, the good thing about it was that I was accepted into the University of Southern Caribbean and I did my degree in behavioral sciences. And while doing that degree, um, I understand more about mental illness. I understand about, my whole life journey, and it going through these tough times, it gives you roots of compassion. It gives you roots of, you want to help persons, and it builds character. Because sometimes you go through a tough time, it builds character in you.
No, and to add insult to injury, before we get to other challenges, to add insult to injury, you were robbed at home once.
Mhm.
What was that
Yes.
experience like?
Oh my goodness. It was, oh boy. I thought I was going to die that day. I'll never forget that day because it was 5 days before my birthday. It was on the 21st of July, 2018. I I was home alone and it was raining. I locked door. I went out and then I was at that time when I was walking up to my home, I did not hear any footsteps behind me, nothing like that. I was, a bit vigilant. My ears is, I use my sense of hearing and whatnot. So I didn't hear no footsteps behind me, nothing like that. So I came home and rain fell. And when I heard like a bang, so I thought it was the wind. So I came downstairs to get something to eat. When I saw this guy go up the stairs, right? Fill in blanks here. And I said, I thought it was a prank. I thought it was one of my family members or something like that. And when something tell me, Cecille, this is not a joke. I said, okay, all right, I'll go up the stairs. He started to ask me questions who live here, about money. I gave them what I have in my purse. And when they took other items and money from my home, and the ordeal lasted 20 minutes, and it was, I saw another guy as well, in my room trashing through my drawers and whatnot, and took jewelry and whatnot as well. So it was a horrible ordeal.
We can just imagine how.
Indeed.
And I ran. I tried to, yeah, well, when I realized course was kind of clear, I make a run for my next door neighbor's home. And I told them what happened, and the police was called, and yeah.
But they never were able to arrest the people who violated you in your home.
Unfortunately, no, because I could not give a clear description and whatnot, and there was no CCTV. We didn't no CCTV, in the area or anything like that.
If you're just joining us, folks, you're listening
And
to
the
Andy.
police officers, yeah. The police officers who dealt with my case at that time, ironically, his grandmother is blind, and he was sensitive about how you deal with a blind and visually impaired person.
If you're just joining us, folks, you're listening to Our Dependency, and we are speaking in observance of World Sight Day. We speaking with 3 women this evening who are blind, visually impaired, and we're speaking with Miss Cecille Alves now. And you can join us live on, of course, you're listening to I-95.5. You can also be speaking to her on her Facebook. She's via video. We're speaking with her, and blind people do have these facilities still. And it's really brave of them to want to do this interview via video, and we welcome that. So you can join us on Facebook or YouTube as well. And Cecille,
Yeah, I had a question for you before we take a break, and that was with regard to employment. I mean,
Yes.
you're a well-educated woman. You have a university degree. How challenging was it for
Yeah.
you to secure
Yes.
employment given your qualifications?
Well, I got a scholarship for persons with disabilities to study, and when I was granted a 1-year internship at the National Library. And when I did OJT at the National Library for 2 years, but after that time has passed, it has been very challenging um, to secure employment. Still up to this day. But by the meantime, I'm volunteering with persons associated with visual impairment. So
What were some of the reasons though
as
that
a
they give
witness.
you? Did you get any reasons for not being hired?
That's an interesting question you asked, right? Right there. I applied for a job at should I say at Trinidad and Tobago Blind Welfare Association, and unfortunately, I was not successful. I was told that well, our persons got the job because the area where we were hiring was ironically in the welfare officer post, and I studied behavioral sciences. So I was turned down for that job. I applied 3 times and I was denied the opportunity.
At the Blind Welfare Association.
Wow. But
Yes,
do you
that's
think
correct.
for other organizations and agencies, do you think that they are not willing to make the kinds of adjustments in the workplace for a blind person and that is what has prevented you from entering the world of work in that regard?
Well, this is where the conference that I represented Pavi at, the UNCRPD, United Nations Conference on the Rights of Persons with Disability, addresses these matters. For example, in one segment of the workshop, we talk about reasonable accommodation, where employer and employee they could work on a compromise. What do you need? How could you facilitate? You may not be able to get because I know certain software is very expensive. How could we accommodate you? And a compromise could be reached. And this is one of the things our group concern blind members of the blind and visually impaired community. We are concerned that there are so many talented young persons. Some of us do our degrees. There's one which hires PhD level and masters. Some did their masters, and their chances are obtaining employment. So I know there are companies in Trinidad and Tobago are hiring persons with disabilities, 2 or 3 companies, or could be more. If because young persons don't know where to go to get employment after OJT. So if we could, advertise and say, hey, we are hiring persons with disabilities, to please place an ad indicating that, because a lot of us want jobs,
Of course. And you see
So
this with
these
companies
are
abroad
things that-
who would advertise, when they advertise a job, they say we are an all-inclusive, equal opportunity employer. And if you have a disability, you're welcome to apply. We will consider your application along with everyone else's. I don't think we have reached that level of
We're not that we're not that conscious.
inclusiveness.
Yeah, we're not that conscious
just
because
yet.
how many and it's not a mandate. It's not a mandate really to say, well, okay, corporate Trinidad and Tobago and government. There should be, we don't have that mandate where, okay, you're hiring, you must have a person living with disability hired.
Yeah.
In not just hire them for hiring them sake, but once they qualified in that field, hire them. There's a DJ in our radio station here, in this radio station, Storm and Tom. And if nobody tells you that, you will never know Storm and Tom is blind.
Correct.
And I was amazed the first time I met Storm and Tom to see Storm and Tom could hold long hours
yes.
on the radio station.
Yeah.
So and that one.
Look at example, so we have Kern Tyson, who was a sports reporter for 98.1.
Yep.
He's the next example also of he's a person who's blind, and he's a DJ and radio announcer as well, and he's an excellent sports reporter.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's really unfortunate that we still that third world and mentality, that because you see some people would see it as an inconvenience. Now this started. I remember I said with I-95, give them that with Citadel, even under Citadel, they had people living with disabilities working in the company.
Yeah.
And this building now is configured to accommodate people living with disabilities. So you have a wheelchair ramp, and they also have
elevator.
an elevator now to bring people upstairs if they're living with disability. And that is what, how many buildings like that in Trinidad and Tobago is outfitted like that to accommodate people, and how many of them have hired blind people? How many? You know, and and then what is the experience like now, living among us, walking among us, like going to purchase goods? You go to the supermarket, or you go to get some fast food, because I'm sure blind people eat fast food too. And
Yes, we do. It does.
right.
I have good experience with supermarkets. I could say well, it was Alves before, but now the name has changed. I have positive experience with them, and also Passaggi Food King. I have positive experience Passaggi Food King in Rio Claro. Anytime I am there to collect groceries, the staff and management, they are superb. So I want to give my hats off to Passaggi Food King in Rio Claro. The excellent customer service.
Well, that is excellent. That's great to hear, and we definitely want to applaud those companies that that provide the kind of service that blind and visually impaired people.
So when you walk into a store, you get somebody to come to you and say, how can we help you? And you are guided and served properly without a fuss.
Yeah.
I have I got positive experiences at stores, and also one or two negative experience. And I'd like to highlight one thing though. There was an incident where I went to purchase something with a visually impaired person, some ice cream, and where we were there, the line, thank God I have some sight. Thank God for that. I noticed the young lady at the counter was signaling people to come in front, signaling them to come in front of us, right? And we noticed this has been going on, but wait a minute. This has been going on over 50 minutes. And they're saying, wait there. And when we see 5 minutes pass, we say, excuse, but we have been waiting here to take our order. And the attitude was horrendous. So you know what we did? We went to our next ice cream place in Trin City Mall. We ordered our ice cream and we gave the young man a tip. People feel blind, people can't tip. We could tip very well if you treat us very good. So what I do that particular ice cream establishment, my sister away went on their Facebook page, because it was a multinational company. They don't play. And write a long letter, an epistle according to my mother, about the treatment of these two visually impaired persons and how unacceptable. You know, the next time I went back to that establishment, I got an apology. They tell me to try different flavor ice cream. I get royal treatment because they were ready to riot act. So, and these are things companies should, any complaints should be, zero tolerance on treatment of customers with disabilities.
Right. So, Cecille, what suggestions now would you give to Trinidad and Tobago that what in your mind, what should we understand about blind people and the needs of blind people and how we should treat with them and the community?
I would like to tell Trinidad and Tobago that persons who are blind and visually impaired like myself, we want to help build our country. We want to work, we want to pay taxes because God has been so good to us. A lot of us receive scholarships for persons with disabilities. We want to give back. We want to build our country. To be sad to leave and to go somewhere else because there's no place like home. We want to help build our country. We want to be treated with love and respect and equality. And, we are calling on to persons from PTSC, Maxis, associations, to meet with us and to talk with us. And also to our young, blind, and visually impaired persons. We all are talented. God gave us gifts. God gave us talents. And let us all, any cause what is close to our hearts, let us use our social media platform or even be on talk show to highlight issues what persons who are blind and visually impaired persons, what we go through, and by the grace of God, change is coming.
Change gonna come. Thank you very much, Cecille. That's a nice way to wrap up your segment. But stay with us. We wanna chat with the other two ladies that we plan to interview this evening. So thank you very much, Cecille, for that testimony.
It is a pleasure being with you, and I must say, Gat and Natasha, thank you all so much. When I was studying my degree program, you all helped me to understand addiction and substance abuse. I appreciate that very much. Thank you all so much for helping me to graduate.
That is so good to hear.
You're welcome.
And that's the idea. That's why we're here. Thank you very much, Cecile. God bless you, all right? And yes, stay with us. Right, folks? That was Cecile. Yes, that was Cecile Alves, and giving a good account of herself there and speaking to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Well done. And we're going to
take a break.
We're going to take a break. And when we return, we're going to hear from Ms. Beverly Fitzallen. And among other things, as I said, she experienced, and somebody on Facebook here put it, the heartless maxi driver should be still in jail, trying to come to terms with what he did by putting a blind person out of a maxi.
Yep.
And I wanted to explain that to you all. I don't know why
it should be a crime.
It should be a crime because thank God nothing happened to her. But as we are wont to do here, that too would have passed. You did just say a blind person get knocked down and they're trying to cross the bus route, and you're there on Facebook they're going to say, what the blind person doing crossing the bus route and why they didn't, but you didn't know what happened. It's so sad, and that maxi driver, I hope you're listening, and I hope you never get blind, boy. That's all I can say. We take a break. We'll be back.
Eye on Dependency, where every life is a biography. On the Eye, 95.5, the most influential name in radio.
Hi, Beer.
Hey, how are you? Good morning.
You busy?
Not for you. How could I assist?
Okay, we have a job for you.
Job? What kind of job is it?
Morning, boss. If I have a small work for you, I'll 5,000. What you do? Pick up some girls, drop them and remember the boss so we can make a quick 5,000.
Girls, boss. What is this about?
Listen to me now. It's a small work. You reach in Toko, pick up some girls, drop them and Rima. 5,000.
That sounding like human trafficking. Are you trying to set me up or what? Partner, you know the penalty for human trafficking? Look, I gone now. Excuse me, please.
Do you know that human trafficking is considered a serious crime in Trinidad and Tobago and is punishable by law under the Trafficking in Persons Act, Chapter 1210, or the TIPS Act? The penalties for recruiting, receiving, transporting, or housing a victim of human trafficking are a minimum of 15 years for trafficking adults and a fine of $500,000, a minimum of 20 years for trafficking children and a fine of $1 million, a fine of $350,000 and imprisonment for 12 years for transporting a person within or across TT borders for the purpose of exploiting that person for prostitution, a fine of $400,000 and imprisonment for 15 years for persons who receive a financial or other benefits from tips, a fine of $500,000 and imprisonment for 20 years for any person who receives a financial or other benefits from trafficking children, an additional 15 years imprisonment for any trafficker who uses or threatens to use a dangerous weapon on a victim, or where the victim suffers serious bodily harm, or the victim contracts a life-threatening illness or is sexually assaulted, or if the trafficker abuses his power as someone entrusted with the care or supervision of a child victim. Imprisonment for 25 years for any member of the Defense or Protective Services or any official or public officer having the powers of arrest who commits an offense. Court can order forfeiture of convicted traffickers' property. A company can be fined $5 million for engaging in tips.
We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
My first encounter with drug treatments is when I went to New Life Ministries up on the Mount, and I realized it was the ideal place for me because it dealt with not only my drug using, but it also dealt with my low self-esteem, my ability to communicate effectively with people. It dealt with my physical ability to improve myself because as a result of using drugs, my physical body was improved.
Where that you go, people smiling outwardly, but inwardly popping sorrow. Every day they cry for help, but this is all in vain. But no one cares to lend a hand to help them ease their pain. I'm your brother, you're my sister. Yes, we are each other's keeper. Get rid of all.
And that's what we try to be here on Dependency, our brother's keeper and sister as well. And we have another sister on the line. This time we speak with Beverly Fitzallen. Beverly, good evening to you.
Good evening to all.
Good evening. We hardly hearing you though.
Good evening to all. Are you hearing me now?
Yes,
you
a lot
can
better.
speak up though.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. Good evening to all of Trinidad and Tobago, and to you, Garth and Natasha.
And thank you very much for agreeing to share your story with us this evening.
I appreciate what you all are doing today. I really do appreciate it.
Yes, yes. And in recognition of World Sight Day, the theme of which is Love Your Eyes. And could you start by telling us a little bit about how you lost your sight and when?
Okay, so my eyesight problem began very early in my life, at the age of 1. I lost the sight in my left eye, and I couldn't see in my left eye. I could have only seen in my right eye. And I attended normal school, primary school, kindergarten school, until the age of 6. And my teachers realized that I was training on the board. And they told my parents. At that time, I attended Monrepo RC School, and that's in South. And they told my parents, and my dad took me to the doctor. The doctor tested my eyes, my right eye, and he referred me to the School for Blind Children, where I attended from 1976. And I continued there, and I continued. I learned Braille, I learned typing. I continued with my schooling, normal primary school level subjects. I also learned different things at school. The School for the Blind Children, they really gave us a holistic. We were well balanced in everything that they taught us: music, drama, swimming, everything. And at the age of 8, I got, me and another young lady got a scholarship from Trinidad to go back into the mainstream, where I attended Bishop Primary School in Pasquay there. And at the age of 10, while going to Bishop Anthony Junior School, I had to do a operation on my right eye for cataract, which was supposed to be really a simple surgery, but out of that, the first surgery, I had to go back in because of blood clot and stuff like that. And after that, I came out being blind. Although I thought I would have, eventually I would have gotten back my sight, but that didn't happen, So at the age of 10, I became totally blind.
Wow. So that must have been devastating for you. Was cataracts the cause of you losing the sight in your eye to begin with?
I think, I don't know if anything could have been done after the first surgery when they realized there was a blood clot. I
Okay.
don't know if they could have done anything better, but because of that, going into the second operation to clear up the blood clot, that is, after that, my sight, I lost my sight.
Right. Did they prepare you for that possibility?
Mm,
Or it did it come as a complete shock?
no, well, at that time I was really young. I was just age 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the doctors didn't, if they spoke to anyone, they spoke to my parents.
Right.
And after the operation, and they realized my parents really tried to see if they could have gotten any help, but the doctor said it didn't make no sense, going anywhere else, because it was a lost cause for me even trying to go away or anything like that.
Wow.
That's what he said.
So how did your parents take it, and how going forward, how did they treat with you and your education and so on?
Well, that's really interesting because I guess it was a new, even if my parents, they worked at the South Branch of the Trinidad and Tobago Blind Welfare Association.
Okay.
So I was really associated with blind persons at a very young age because they would tell me, I know you since a baby and stuff like that. But even if your child gets blind, it's an experience, right?
Yep.
Even if you work with blind people. So for them, it was an experience. I put it that my dad really cried and stuff like that because, people were telling him, well, no, don't take me for the operation. And he saw that, it would work.
Mm-hmm.
So that took him really hard. They had just tried to adjust as well as possible with me being blind. But with blindness, people see no hope.
Yeah.
When you lose your sight, your friends, your family, people that you know, sometimes because they can't relate, they can't understand, what this is. Because people don't see blindness, and I've been told, as a disability. Some people have real phobias, about blindness. They think it's a curse. They think it's if you get blind, that's it.
Some people actually think that it's contagious.
So, yes, it is. I mean, well, they do, and not that it is. They do think that still. They do still think that because some people are afraid to hold you. If they're helping you, they're afraid to touch you.
Seriously?
So, yes. Up to this week, I experienced that.
What was your experience?
Well, my experience was walking in Sawa, on the pavement going to Scotiabank, and I needed to use the ATM, and walking on the pavement, I reached a point where it had bush on the pavement, and I was a little puzzled. I tried to tuck my cane around, and nobody really came to my assistance. But when I actually maneuvered myself around it and continued, and I was getting a bit of a problem in maneuvering myself on the pavement. And a lady came, she really came, and she said, where are you going to? And I told her, well, I'm going to Scotiabank. And she said, well, I'm going there too. But She did not hold me. She said, "Sam, walk straight. Go so,
Wow.
walk ahead, And I said, well, I'm blind, Although people would see me with my cane and see me with my shades, they say that like, so they would, she's, come on, she walking in front of me and she touched me a little and then, just move away. And
Right.
then, and so, and that is how it went until I reached Scotiabank. She didn't really actually hold my hand, but gave me opportunity to hold her elbow, which which is the right way to do if you're really leading a blind person.
Yes. Yes. Could you talk about that a little bit, please? Because I think not everybody is okra with how you are supposed to guide a person who is blind. Because some people tend to want to put you in front, which makes no sense because you can't see where you're going. So explain to us how a sighted person is supposed to lead a blind person when walking.
Okay, first of all, if you do see someone and you're willing to have somebody that is blind and you're willing to help and you approach them, you should ask them first, not grab them or pull them or anything like that. Ask them if they need assistance. If they say yes, then you offer your elbow, right? You offer your hand, your elbow, you allow them to hold to be above your elbow by your arm there.
Yeah.
And you would go an inch before them, right? Like a inch and a half before them, and you let them follow you so they can feel your body, whether you go up or down. Although sometimes you still would let them know whether you're going across.
Yes.
You're going to cross a drain or there's a hole and you need to maneuver left or right. If there's a narrow area, you put your hand behind your back and let them hold by your wrist, and you let them walk behind you through that narrow path until you reach to a part that is both of you can walk side by side again, and that is how you lead someone. You don't pull them, you don't try to lift them off the pavement, you don't, some people will, when they start to help you, they realize that they can't be bothered helping you all the way, so they leave you in the middle of the road and say, go ahead. You don't pull a blind person. You don't, when you're leading, sometimes when persons are leading me, they are walking on the straight path, they're seeing where they're going, but I end up in a hole, I end up in dirty water, I end up bouncing a pool. So you need to really, if you're helping someone, and we do appreciate persons that help, because there are persons who don't help you with ask and they will walk away from you. And they leave you there. They feel that you are not hearing them walking away, or sometimes they stay very quiet and they think that you don't know that they're there still, and you would keep on asking, you'll ask them 2-3 times and they will not respond, right? And then, so you have to, the people have to know if you're really helping someone to as much as you're walking and you see where you're going, you have to look out for the person that you're helping.
Yes.
So sometimes we end up while we are going and we are very mindful where we are going, we end up going in holes and drains and stuff and people help us. So we appreciate the help, but
But if you're just joining us, people, you're listening to Dependency, and we are speaking with 3 blind and visually impaired women this evening. One is visually impaired and the other 2 are blind. And Beverly, speaking with Beverly now, and we just hearing of their experiences and their challenges that they face in Trinidad and Tobago as blind and visually impaired people. And there's a name before we now getting put out of a maxi as a sighted person in the middle of nowhere is frightening. You were put out of a maxi as a blind female. Could you explain what happened?
Okay, so that's this year that happened.
This year?
This year. Very important. Be also the 8th of March, Women's International Day. And the group that I'm in, with Mrs. Araujo and Cecille, concerns persons for blind. We went out there to just, portray issues that we go through, challenges, because around that time they had where persons were having vigils and stuff for Miss Barrett, right? Having Miss Barrett. They were having vigils and stuff for Miss Barrett, but we said that we want to portray, issues that we go through also for blind, as blind women, because we are blind women also. Nobody really thought about disabled women and the needs and issues that we go through. So we said that we would, and we did go out there, and after that, well, it's not only three of us, we had about six of us came out. And after that, we were helped by one of the other persons in our group. I was helped by one of the other persons in my group to the maxi stand. And she takes me into a maxi, and I just tell the driver I'm going up to Arima, because it's Arima that I was going up to, the bus route, maxi for the bus route going up to Arima. And I did tell the driver, I said, drive, when you reach around a Ruka there, can you tell me please, because I need to call the taxi to let the taxi driver know how far I am, so I could meet them in Arima at a particular point, because I was coming up straight to Brazil. And he said, okay, right? And well, continuing going up, I keep on, I asked him, he said, I haven't forgotten you. We didn't reach Aruba yet, and stuff like that. When we did reach Aruba, he told me, I called the taxi driver said okay and all that. But going up, this is a new area for me, because I've only started to live up on the east side for the past year. So I'm still getting accustomed to the route and the different stops. So I keep on asking driver, where am I? Because I don't want to, sometimes you ask passengers and nobody takes you on, right? So I sit behind the driver so I can ask him. And he was talking to somebody in the front seat, and he was not taking me on and so on. And I keep on, every stop I see people coming out, and it have a particular stop. I saw some people came out, and I said, well, okay, stop like that. Stop was the stop before my stop. And I said, I turned to somebody. I said, can somebody let me know when I reach Farmfront Street, which is the street, and I'm supposed to stop off? And the driver said, what happened? You didn't see I'm doing something? And he started to get on. He said, you can't wait, and he started to react by that. And I said, drive, I've been asking you, and you've been ignoring me. And, and we started off like that, back and forth. And he said at one time, he said, you shouldn't be telling me anything, because I'm doing you a favor. I said, favor, drive? What favor are you doing me? Because I'm sorry to say, I would not just sit down and let people tell me things just like that, especially when it's unfair. So I said, what favor? I paid you like anybody else. Right? Like he forgot I paid him, because I usually pay. I said, what favor you do? You're not doing me any favor. I paid you like anybody else. And he started to talk over me and try to intimidate me and stuff like that. And I also was responding, because I said, drive, he said, it's a good thing I'm not your son. So I said, well, thank God you're not my son, because my son will never do me that. And, we went on like that. And then he said, I'm going to put you out of my maxi. And he stopped the maxi. And he said, come out. And he started to call me. I said, well, he said, he opened the maxi door. And he said, come out. Look your money. And I said, you're very uneducated. He said, and he called me a C-word 3 times. Right?
Wow.
And I turned to ask a passenger, which is right by the door there, by the iron rail. And I said, well, how much money is this? Because it was not new bill he gave me, right? And the person told me 5 and 3 singles, which is the price, right? And I came out of the maxi, right? And he went back in his maxi and he drove away. And I was left there at the side of the road, which is a quiet street, right? I heard and I heard somebody on the other side of the road, and I tried to signal to them, raising my hand, saying, "Excuse me, can you help me?" And the person saw, because they were telling somebody, I see that driver put out somebody, I went and helped her across the road, but it so happened that a maxi came up, and I stopped the maxi, and the maxi, I went in the maxi, and the driver took me to the stop that I needed to go.
Beverly, what would you like to say to Trinidad and Tobago, to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and how can they make life easier for people living in your world?
First of all, I would like them to give us to respect us. I would like them to know that we are people and we are not less than human beings. We are not problems, because usually people would say, "Why don't you have somebody come with you?" And sometimes you tell them, "Well, we don't have no other choice," because some people don't have that luxury of having people come with them all the time, because it's an expense, an added expense, an extra expense for blind persons, getting people to help them like that all the time. People will not do things for free. And I would like Trinidad and Tobago to know that though we are blind, though we get blind, it may be during the course of our lifetime. That doesn't mean that life has ended for us. That doesn't mean we have become deaf and dumb and stupid, and we don't have. We are the same persons that you all knew all the time, the same persons, and what you all can do, we can do, and we try to do even better, because we have to really, make an extra effort to make sure things are done properly in our lives. We have to adjust, differently. We have to do things different methods. So we have to go out there and make the extra effort. And for persons to look at us like we are liabilities and we are next to nothing, and we are not important. We go out and people talk around us. People talk to other people next to us, thinking that we can't answer for ourselves. And we don't need that kind of respect. We need that chance to live like everybody else, and know that we are people too. We are people too. We have these feelings like everybody else. We achieve like everybody else. Up to this week, there are 6 persons that were given awards, and they are blind through a program that was done in 2014. They're recognizing blind persons for World Sight Week, and it's blind persons that have achieved. Who have achieved. Anthony Tom was one for Facade, Ashika Maji, Ashford Joseph. These people achieved a lot. Marlon Parry, who is a policeman. We live like everybody else. So have that respect for us, regardless. We are people too. Just like, don't think that, because people are willing to help sighted persons quicker than they help us. Imagine that we ask for help and they will refuse us, and then we could hear somebody asking them and they will quicker help a sighted person and go and help a blind person or a disabled person. And we don't need to be treated like outcasts. We are not outcasts. And we need better systems in this country. Roads and pavements are terrible. Terrible.
Beverly?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Ms. Jennifer Daulat-Araujo will elaborate on that, the infrastructure and what you all have been advocating for. But we really want to thank you so much for sharing your story this evening.
Yes. Thank you so much again.
Yes, it's our pleasure. And you stay strong and keep the advocacy going.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, then. Right. Take care, Beverly. Beverly Fitzallen. And we take a quick break and we come back with Jennifer Daulat-Araujo. Stay right there.
This is reality radio at its best. Eye on Dependency on I-95.5 FM.
My first encounter with drug treatments is when I went to New Life Ministries up on the Mount, and I realized it was the ideal place for me because it dealt with not only my drug using, but it also dealt with my low self-esteem, my ability to communicate effectively with people. It dealt with my physical ability to improve myself because as a result of using drugs, my physical body was impaired.
This week on Iron Health, we focus on drug treatment and rehabilitation at New Life Ministries. Tune in this Sunday from 8:30 p.m. on TV6 and from 8:45 p.m. on the Ion Dependency YouTube channel.
Thank you for calling the Counter Trafficking.
Was established through an act of parliament, the response of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. We implement government policies developed by the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons, effective identification of victims and witnesses, prevention of trafficking, protection and prosecution, all through effective partnerships. We also operate a toll-free anonymous hotline 800-4288 for CTU, where the public can report possible cases of human trafficking. We screen and interview persons to identify possible victims of trafficking. We refer identified victims to appropriate agencies for support and care. Specially trained, positively vetted police officers working in the CTU gather evidence, investigate, and prosecute human trafficking cases. In keeping with our public education mandate, we also deliver training to our many stakeholders and partners. We collaborate with local, regional, and international organizations, NGOs, churches, and faith-based organizations to educate and warn the public on how to recognize human trafficking. We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
My name is Shirley Ann Alexander, licensed social worker, licensed by the state of New Jersey. You are now listening to Ion Dependency with God and Natasha on I-95.5 FM, Trinidad and Tobago.
Along the highways, across the byways, and everywhere that you go, people smiling outwardly, but inwardly popping sorrow every day.
All right, thank you for staying with us.
Yes, if you're joining us from on I-95.5 FM or on our Facebook or YouTube pages, welcome. You've missed a whole lot, but we are winding down now with third person, Miss Jennifer Daulat-Araujo, who, as Garth mentioned earlier, is the recipient of a Hummingbird Silver Medal National Award for her efforts in advocating on behalf of blind and visually impaired in Trinidad and Tobago. And we are happy to welcome her to Iron Dependency this evening.
Welcome, Jennifer. Good evening to you.
Good evening to the panel. Thank you for having me. Good evening to Trinidad and Tobago on the World Wide Web.
Right. So you are our advocate. What's the name of the group you all have formed?
The group which we have formed is called the Concerned Members of the Blind and Visually Impaired Community.
Right.
We went out in the earlies when Andrea's case was being highlighted in Trinidad and Tobago. We were part of the protests, and then we went out again to Women's Day on the 8th of March.
So you had your issues from young as well, as a child?
Yes, I always had visual impairment. As a child, I always had to sit at the front of the class, also to have the book close to my eyes to read. I failed my common entrance, not because I did not know the work, it's because of my eye problems. My parents did not know about the school for blind, but they chose to send me to St. Charles High School. And for 3 years there, I studied until I went to Canada for surgery regarding my condition. And at St. Charles, I even came out, the last exams I sat, I came out last. It was an experience. I can talk about it now. I can laugh about it now. But at that time, I couldn't have done it because I could not have seen the lines on the page nor read the questions properly. So at the end of that year, I went to Canada where I had surgery for my eyes. Again, it wasn't successful for long, those surgeries. And fortunately, I was there, and good Mr. Trudeau at that time, the Prime Minister, he was giving out amnesty, so I was able to get my documents to continue staying in Canada to study, where I was trained at the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, where I received my rehabilitation services in Braille, walking with a white cane, using a tape recorder. Following, I went to high school there at Daniel McIntyre Institute, which is a regular school. And we had a system there where the Ministry of Education provided a resource center where persons with disabilities would have gone for further help in doing their classes. For example, I could not at that time now see the algebra book with the little numbers. So my helper, she would have written my questions to me using large print, where I was able to see it with a felt pen. And I graduated with my high school from grade 12. And I went to the University of Winnipeg, where I graduated in 1981 and went into the honors program 1982. I did psychology and sociology, and I came back to sweet Trinidad to live in my country, our paradise, to get away from the snow and the heavy coat and all of that. Those opportunities were there, right? So I came back here looking for jobs and so on, and I went to 54 places before I was accepted at the Trinidad and Tobago Blind Welfare Association. Do you want me to pause now?
Wow.
So 54 places turned you down to hire.
Pardon?
You were turned down at 54 places you applied.
Yes. I went 54 applications from the Prime Minister to the President to doctors to people, and Sweet Blind Welfare Association accepted me, right? But I started on the 1st of April, 1985. Before that, when I went to the Public Service Commission and they asked me to bring my transcript to them, and I did go with my transcript, show them my education, the lady, and I remember this very clearly, and it's a very hurtful thing. She said, "You are not the Jennifer Daulat we are looking for. It's the next Jennifer Daulat who has the same education." Went to the University of West Indies in Jamaica. Yet she addressed the letter to me, to Pasha Main Road, to bring in my documents. And this, when she saw me, that I was blind, this is what she, told me.
So what year that happened? In 1962?
No, that I started primary school in 1962.
Wow,
right?
So 85 that happened.
82 I graduated, and that happened around 83, right? When I came back to Trinidad.
Right.
So that was an experience.
Just to go back a little bit, do you know what the condition was that caused your visual impairment?
Yes, I have glaucoma, right? The same as Cecille, and well, I had a number of surgeries in Canada. I could have seen 100% for a few minutes after they opened my eyes, and then it would have just closed back. The front of the eye is responsible for bringing nutrients. There is a little passageway which is responsible for bringing the nutrients to the front of the eyes to keep them clean. In turn, the optic nerves is deteriorated. and then you lose vision. But nowadays with glaucoma, it can be controlled by surgery, drugs, medication, and what have you. So I was a teenager when I lost my sight. At the age of 19, I started to use the white cane. I was lucky to be. I say through the hard work of my parents who worked the land, we sold in the market. I'm not ashamed to say where I'm from. I'm from the land, I'm from selling in the market, and my parents educated all of us. And I'm telling you, education is the way out of poverty. And I can tell anybody that. Make up your mind. God gave us everything as equal as, and He gave us opportunities. He provided Braille for us. He didn't leave us alone. He didn't leave us alone at all. So, and Mr. Gat, it's a challenge. Don't get frightened if you should lose your sight. Come to us, we will help you.
No, me want to see all in us. Forget that. No.
Yes, we all prefer to see.
Yeah. You could rock through that one.
But you have to take care of your eyesight before it goes, right? You have to do.
And in turn, they will take care of you. Use
That's
your
right.
medication. Go to your doctor. I love that poetry that guy said, Russell, today.
Yes.
But Jennifer, before
very well.
Jennifer, before you run out of time, you an advocate, and what have you been advocating for? What are some of the challenges that your community face, and what would you like to see fixed?
Okay, what I would like to see is that we have a situation at the Blind Welfare Association where our building presently is rented out to third parties, and our people are not getting to use the building as with programs. They moved out a lot of the programs to the School for Blind, and they're not employing visually impaired persons. Things are not being advertised properly. A lot of nepotism is going on here. As soon as I left in 2017, they sold the bus, the visually impaired. A lot of the programs went down. I had 62 programs with executive officers who developed during those years, and many of them have been condemned. But yet other organizations would have their buses and so on. But the one for Port of Spain, they sold it, moved away, and many of the programs, persons do not have materials right now in Port of Spain. In San Fernando, they are working full-time there, and we are not treated equally. I worked 31 years at the association, right? I know what I'm talking about. I went to this country coast to coast, east, west, north, and south, you name it, and Tobago, giving lectures, assisting visually impaired persons. And I wrote 2 books, and one of them is called Windows to the World of the Blind. The one is Braille Manual for Sighted Persons, and I updated the one for Braille Manual for Sighted Persons, which is used by UTT through the Blind Welfare Association, and to teach teachers who are doing special training. So when our people are integrated in the regular school system, they would know about our pavements. Oh my God, our pavements need fixing, not for only the blind and visually impaired, but for all differently challenged persons and the elderly. We are taking 5% of our gas money for roads, and we are not seeing roads. In Canada, there is an assistive card that Trinidad and Tobago just launched with the Social Welfare Department in Trinidad. I must compliment them on that we get a lot of discounts in Canada. We go to the buses free. We get to the train with 1 ticket and our guide. Within Canada, we go with our guide on 1 ticket. We go to cinemas free. These are some of the things I want to see happen for our people. Thank you to the government for letting our money become raised eventually, that we can be independent. But again, we have to talk. We appreciate that very much. But after time, the dots are getting flat. It's something we have to address. And through the budget, I say thank you to the government for making us, for allowing us to get aids with discounts. And I hope Blind Welfare Association would, and PAVI and advocates for the blind and visually impaired would take time to bring in aids for the persons who are visually impaired, low income, and help them. And I hope this is not a one-time thing. I hope it goes on for other years to come, not one time on the budget and let it go. So our government, is trying, but there is much work to do. I would like to challenge Mr. Rohan Sinanan to walk with me and my representative who would never answer me. I wrote to 4 government places regarding Paji and not one acknowledged that. So they are busy doing other things. Yes, the pandemic is there. We have a lot of problems to deal with, but don't forget the elderly, the disabled, the blind and visually impaired, and all disabilities.
We're trying to get on to Mr. Romano. His phone keeps going to voice. Maybe we don't know, but we'll keep trying. But you said you reached out to your representative. Who is your representative?
Well, we have the person at the Piakot Regional Corporation. I can't remember the name right now. I wrote to Mr. Rohan Sinanan. I sent pictures. I sent to Miss St. Augustine representative and a radio station, which I did get the idea from, who was the only one who recognized what I did.
Right.
I sent pictures showing, So there is much work to be done. We can take examples from other countries the same way we take examples to do positive things to make us. We are too rich. We are too rich to have our country like this. We need to use our money correctly for everybody to enjoy in TNT and let our Trinidad and Tobago come back to the paradise of safety. We have too many crimes happening. Persons with disabilities too are affected. Like you heard Cecille's story. I am scared every time you hear something in the news. It's too much. Too many things are happening. We all have to secure ourselves. The police have to be sensitive to the disabled too. Once when I call the police, he's asking me when I told them that I'm visually impaired. She said, it was a her. She said, how you know that is going on outside? I said, what I'm hearing, I'm knowing what I'm going outside. The Maxi Taxi Association, the bus drivers need to be sensitized through blind welfare. Sure, they can give lectures and PAVI to sensitize these people, to have speakers on the bus to call out the places when we are going, so we would know what we are. There is a lot of things to do. There are a lot of ideas in Trinidad and Tobago, but I'm telling you, it's on paper. And finally, I want to say, Natasha and Mr. Gatt, when I came to Blind Welfare Association in 1985, I worked in a partially burnt building. And through the fundraising of the blind and visually impaired and staff, and I know some of the staff did put up money to purchase the other lot of that building. And right now, we cannot go in our building freely. Many of our programs are down, and they're telling us to go independent and do it, yet the crime is high in the country. So I want our buildings to come back. We had a meeting with the Ministry and Ministry of Labor, but nothing is finalized yet on that, because we need our building. We need more blind persons to be employed. People are leaving the workshop and they are not filled. The spaces are not filled. And all of this happened when my date for retirement came in 2017. I worked 31 years. It's my lifetime I worked there. That's the only job I had except the part-time summer jobs in Canada.
Mr. Romano, good evening to you. Mr. Patrick Romano, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Doc.
Yes, you have been working with these ladies, and you heard Cecille, Beverly, and now Jennifer, and how passionate Jennifer is. What can you add to that?
Well, to be quite.
Oh gosh.
Hello?
Did we lose him?
Mr. Romano? No, man.
Oh,
Seriously?
I heard a click, so I don't know if
all right. So Jennifer, we'll try him again. So Jennifer, I am hoping that this doesn't die a natural death from here. I am going to try and get this in, to Mr. Enoch, so that they can follow up on this, because what you're saying there, what you're saying there is very serious. And if the blind welfare is to the blind of Trinidad and Tobago, and You
And
know,
the
it's,
school for blind is not at the school for blind anymore. They are functioning from one of your regular high schools, and that was given for the work for the blind.
Yeah.
By the one of the Jeff. Oh gosh, the name cannot come to me right now.
but we got back Mr. Romano. So Mr. Romano, yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, and I am saying that that organization is run as if it is a parlor, and I don't know what the line ministry. I don't know what the ministry is doing to rectify the situation at blind welfare, because that organization is being run.
This is the Ministry of Social Development, yes, and Family
Yes.
Services. Okay.
And all sorts of things keep going on there without the approval of the council. The latest one there is where the executive officer, who has been in that position for the past maybe 9 years, and he is a public officer, and I don't understand how a public officer could be on secondment to a position such as an executive officer on contract, and nothing is being done. So what you find happening, there is no HR department there. The accounting unit is a one-man, 2 little girls there, and there is no audit function. And although we talk to the ministry seems to be staying far from investigating that organization. And I have been calling for them to do a forensic audit of the 1918 account of that organization, because there was something that went on between the executive officer and contracting out and leasing another empty spot that the blind welfare owns. The council, who is like a board, they were not aware. And that organization needs professional people in the high positions. Right now, it is being run like a family business. The only people who benefit there, you have to be friendly, you have to be known, and the San Fernando branch is now assuming being the pinnacle organization of blind welfare. So they are renting out the Port of Spain office, which was built for blind people to be able to access their services and, and to be friendly and have their little functions whenever. They have now moved them out, send those people who used to be working there up to Santa Cruz, and the client of the organization cannot find their way all the way to Santa Cruz. Because if you know where the blind welfare school, the blind for the school was, you will understand the difficulty in getting to that area. But the present executive and the council, even though the council now has some government representatives, I am not so sure that they are demanding performance from that executive officer. He's unqualified for that position. He employs people that have they are government employees. So he fills those vacancies without any contact with the service commission or the statutory service commission. So that organization desperately needs investigation. And I am saying that Mr. Stuart's latest ploy, because his objective is to found the workshop in Port of Spain. Tobago is already dead. He no longer look at Tobago, and everything is focused down south. So I am saying that we must keep lobbying for the government ministry to step in and regularize what is going on at blind welfare institutions. I can go and talk about this organization because I was president for some time. And when I saw what was going on, I was shocked. And of course, the annual general meeting is only consists of the friends of Mr. Surat and his other body, like the accountant and the now president. What they do, they recruit people on $10, recruit them. They know nothing about blind welfare. And they recruit them to come to vote for the people that Mr. Surat sends up on a slate. And once you get through, well, Mr. Surat does what he wants. Because they're not interested. They don't know anything that is going on. They don't even understand the Constitution. And that is another issue. Mr. Surat, he acts as the secretary to the council. And that is not allowed in law. The law specifically states that no employed person of blind welfare can be a council member. But Mr. Surat is the secretary. He takes notes. He does everything, organize meetings. What is this going on? So,
Mr. Romano, we are past our time. We are after it's 2 minutes past 8 o'clock, unfortunately. But thank you very much for adding your piece and saying what needs to be said. We hope that the right people are listening.
And we will ask the newsroom to follow up on this too, Jennifer. And Mr. Romano, we will ask the newsroom to follow up on this. That's all we can do. But we think it's something that needs the intervention of the ministry, as you said.
Most certainly.
Yeah, and
there have been charges of sexual harassment and all sorts of things going on in there. And you're not hearing what is taking place.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
Understood.
All right, thanks very much again.
Well,
we'll keep in touch.
Cecille, Alves, Beverly, Fitzallen, Jennifer Daulat-Araujo, Hummingbird, Silver recipient in the sphere of public service and social work, and Mr. Romano. Mr. Daulat, we want to thank you and keep up the good work. Keep fighting.
Yes,
And
thank you all, and you all continue to keep up the excellent work. And I hope your minister is listening, that he can know that we listen to you all the time.
all right,
Yes.
thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Yes, and
You're welcome.
okay, you all take care, all right?
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye. And of course, to those of you who commented on Facebook, and Thomas, Simone, Allison, and all the Annette and everybody else who, the usual suspects who continue to support us and stay with us, we thank you so much for being with us this evening. Cecille, once again, Beverly, you all stay strong, folks. And as I said, love your sight and love our blind and visually impaired people as well. Let's be our brother's keeper. We keep saying that. It sounds good rolling off the tongue, but are we really? Let's try and do it now. And remember, this evening on TV6 from 8:30, we have another episode of Eye on Health, this time featuring Mr. Paul McCletchy from New Life Ministries Rehabilitation Center, and all the information that you need to know on substance abuse and the work of New Life Ministries. You're going to get it this evening on TV6 from 8:30.
And on YouTube from 8:45 p.m.
Correct.
as well.
So, folks, once again, Cecille, bye-bye. I think she's still there. Cecille's still there. Cecille.
Coming down to the end.
Thank you very much, Cecille and Jennifer, once again, for spending the time with us this evening. And we really do hope that Minister Donna Cox and folks at the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services look into what is happening at the blind, because we've been hearing it for too long. We've been really hearing about these issues at the Blind Welfare Association, and I think it's finally time somebody really investigate what's going on there fully. We can just bring the news to you, bring the concerns, and that's where we can have to leave it.
Yes, and please do everything that you can if you do encounter someone who's blind or visually impaired, do what you can to help them if they need it. Ask them if they need help, provide the assistance they need, and be, as we say, be your brother's keeper, be your sister's keeper. Treat people the way you would like to be treated.
Exactly. That's all about it. Or a family member.
Yep.
Next Sunday, God's willing, we'll be here with another interesting story. This time, we always hear about men who recover from crack cocaine, right? Most of the time we feature that, and who went through the struggles with it. This time we have a young lady who's going to tell her story, how she got introduced to the drug and where it took her. So, be with us again, God's willing, next Sunday.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, folks.
Be safe.
Good night.
You're listening to Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha. Reality radio at its best.
This is I-95.5 FM,